Carson Wentz. Oh, Carson Wentz. Man, has he fallen down the abyss, man. How much has he fallen, man? This is Sports Guy talking that you guys are listening and watching. This is Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here to talk about, guess what? Carson Wentz being released by the Washington Commanders. Once again, Carson Wentz will be playing for a different team, as this seems to be an annual tradition for him at this point. Carson Wentz's days appear to be numbered as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with a topic question. So here it is. What is your reaction to the Commanders releasing Carson Wentz? And honestly, my reaction is that I am not surprised at all. Anybody that didn't see this coming, you need to have your brain checked out, because Carson Wentz was not performing at a high level whatsoever. He wasn't even performing at an acceptable level for the Washington Commanders. And when you have not one but two quarterbacks outplay him, yeah, you're going to get cut, especially when you can save $26 million in cap space. When you look at how Carson Wentz played this year for the Washington Commanders, he was simply not very good for them on the field. 2-5 as a starting quarterback this year for the Washington Commanders. He simply didn't get the job done when it mattered most. You got blown out at home by 2 touchdowns to the Deshaun Watson-led Browns team. Entirely unacceptable. And honestly, when you look at Carson Wentz's NFL career, you look at how he's gotten worse over time and how he's had a tragic downfall. The downfall of Carson Wentz is truly tragic. It is one of the saddest stories that you guys are going to go ahead and hear, and I'm going to tell you guys about it, because I remember Carson Wentz as a rookie when he played really well as a rookie in those first 3 games. I know he kind of fell off in the middle, but he finished the year really strong, and he looked like he had promise as a first-year quarterback. He was a quarterback that a lot of people loved. He was a quarterback that had a cannon for an arm. And honestly, the best way to describe Carson Wentz for the younger people in this audience that didn't get to watch Carson Wentz play earlier on in his career, he was basically Justin Herbert before Justin Herbert. That's how good Carson Wentz was. Carson Wentz could make all throws from all angles. Carson Wentz was a physical specimen that was a freak. He had the body size of a Josh Allen, but he could chuck it like Patrick Mahomes, and he could run like Justin Herbert. That was how good Carson Wentz was. And then you look at that 2017 season. Oh my goodness, Carson Wentz, tremendous football player. Carson Wentz, he was leading the Eagles to all those wins, and he was playing very well. He was so close to winning MVP one year that I'm honestly in the belief that had he not torn his ACL against the Rams, he would have won the MVP that year. That was how good Carson Wentz was. Fast forward to the end of the 2017 season, though, and then you see the Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl with Nick Foles as their quarterback. Remember, Nick Foles was the backup quarterback for Carson Wentz at that time. Now, Carson Wentz, for him, that must have been kind of tough for him mentally speaking, because you were the quarterback most of the year, but you don't get credit for the Super Bowl victory as the player because you were not the one that started in the game. So that's got to be obviously tough from that perspective. So we go ahead and go to 2018. Carson Wentz, he's trying to recover from his ACL. Obviously, ACL injuries, they're very difficult to overcome. And he plays and he puts up solid numbers. But honestly, the Eagles are not winning a lot of football games. Carson Wentz, he went 5-6 that year for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he ends up suffering a back injury. So they have to go ahead and play Nick Foles again down the stretch, because Carson Wentz had a back injury. And what happened? Nick Foles took the Eagles on an improbable run to the NFL playoffs. And not only that, he led the Philadelphia Eagles to a playoff win. Now you have to be sitting in the room probably thinking, how could a career backup named Nick Foles be leading the Eagles to all those playoff victories? If Carson Wentz was that guy, if he was that generational talent that everybody hyped him up to be, why is a career backup basically doing the same things that Carson Wentz can? That's certainly what one has got to wonder. And I'm pretty sure Carson Wentz, that thought probably crossed through his mind. That probably bothered him a little bit. I mean, look, he was a young quarterback that thought he had a lot of success in the National Football League, but every time he got hurt, his backup always seemed to come in and win the big games. So that's certainly how it bothered Carson Wentz a bit. And we'll get to Carson Wentz's mindset a little bit later, because that was one of the main reasons for his tragic downfall in the NFL. So that was the situation that the Eagles had with Nick Foles. Let's go ahead and go to 2019. Now they let Nick Foles walk in free agency. Now Carson Wentz gets the starting job. There's really no competition at the backup position whatsoever, not unless you consider Josh McCown the backup quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. And guess what? Carson Wentz, he actually puts up solid numbers, and he leads the Eagles to a pretty good stretch run in December where they win 4 games in a row to end the year. They win the NFC East division. He beats Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys in a pivotal Week 16 NFC East matchup. And you're thinking, okay, Carson Wentz has finally got it made. And what happened? Carson Wentz got himself concussed in the wild card game. He doesn't get to finish the game. In fact, he barely played in any of that game, so I meant that he basically started the game, but since he barely played so much, he wasn't really a part of the game. And Josh McCown, he comes in, keeps the game competitive. And the Eagles, they end up losing by 8 in the wild card round. But you're thinking, okay, Carson Wentz, maybe he's got this all figured out now. Now he doesn't have that voodoo magic that the backup quarterback has. But he's a guy that can put up solid numbers, that can make all the throws, and it seems like he's got it made. And look, the Eagles, they even showed a sign of faith in him by signing him to a 4-year, $128 million contract, added to the 2 years they had remaining left on his rookie contract at that time. So you would think, okay, Carson Wentz's confidence is finally there, and you can finally see that the Eagles have put confidence in him. Not so fast, because what the Eagles did in 2020 was a pretty radical move, which was taking a quarterback in day 2 of the NFL draft. This was not like some day 3 pick where you draft a guy, you try to develop him as a backup. It's not like they spent a first-round pick, so you can't necessarily tell, because when you draft a first-round quarterback, that typically tells you, hey, that first-round quarterback is going to be on the field sooner rather than later. However, when you draft a second-round quarterback, though, you have a little bit more control of your destiny. If you play well, you can keep that second-rounder off the bench. Usually you draft quarterbacks in the second round so you can find a starting caliber quarterback. You typically don't find superstar QBs in the second round. I understand that Jalen Hurts is a superstar, but more often than not, that's typically not the case. However, Carson Wentz threw a fit about it. He had an absolute problem. His confidence deteriorated, and as a result of that, his mindset was already messed up, which caused him to have a career worst season. He was taking horrible sacks, he was throwing horrible interceptions, and honestly, it seemed like he was not there mentally speaking. In fact, he played so bad that the Philadelphia Eagles said, you know what, Carson Wentz, just go ahead and go to the bench. We're just going to get started on that second round kid that we drafted in Jalen Hurts because we believe that he's going to be a better quarterback than you. So that certainly had to hurt Carson Wentz's confidence even more. But honestly, who could blame the Eagles for benching him at that time? Carson Wentz was playing trash football in a historically trash division. They had no choice but to bench Carson Wentz. A lot of people don't realize this, but if Carson Wentz had just simply played to the best of his abilities in 2020, I'm not even saying he had to play good. If he had just simply played all right, if he had simply played to the best of his abilities, if he had simply not been broken down mentally speaking, he would have still been able to keep his starting job, and he could have kept Jalen Hurts on the bench. And that's my problem with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is not a guy that loves to compete. This is not a guy that understands how competition works in the NFL. If you play well, you get to keep your job. If you don't, you sit on the bench. Carson Wentz elected not to understand that, because you know what Carson Wentz did after 2020? The man requested a trade. He said, get me out of Philly. I don't like what you're doing with this Jalen Hurts situation. Go ahead, start him. You're not going to do anything with him. Go ahead and send me to a team that's going to get me fixed up. So the Eagles say, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Let me go ahead and ship you off for a first and a third round pick. So the Indianapolis Colts, they end up getting Carson Wentz. A lot of people loved the Carson Wentz trade to the Colts at the time in favor of the Colts. I, for one, did not love it. I thought that was a horrible move for the Colts at the time. And looking back on it, it was absolutely a horrible choice for the Indianapolis Colts to make. Now, I understand that Carson Wentz, he ended up putting decent numbers in 2021, but when the team needed him to step up in a win in game against the 2-14 Jaguars team in Week 18, he did nothing but fold like a lawn chair. Carson Wentz choked under pressure. He made bad decisions with the football. He threw a horrific interception. He took horrible sacks, and his team ended up getting blown out to the Jacksonville Jaguars in a game where they had to win just to get into the playoffs. So obviously that had to screw over Carson Wentz's confidence even more. And the Colts are saying, you know what? We can't deal with a quarterback that melts down in big games. We can't deal with mentally weak quarterbacks. So they're going to go ahead and trade Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders. And you're thinking, okay, Carson Wentz, we already can see he's not a star quarterback at this point. Maybe we think he's a starting caliber quarterback at this point. And look, there's nothing wrong with being a starting caliber quarterback. Not everybody's cut out to be a star at the NFL level. However, Carson Wentz on the Washington Commanders was a disaster. It went as horrible as you could have realistically expected. He was not a good player for the Commanders in 2022. He lost the starting job to Taylor Heineke, then lost the starting job to Sam Howell. Not one, but two quarterbacks outperformed Carson Wentz this year. When that happens, obviously you're a top candidate to get released. The days of Carson Wentz as a starting quarterback seem to be over, not unless if a team signs him to be a bridge starter or something like that, where they're just waiting until they draft their first-round rookie or something along those lines. The point is, Carson Wentz, he had a major fall from where he was. He went from former number 2 overall pick to future NFL superstar to MVP candidate to solid starter to being a bad quarterback to being a solid quarterback, except he doesn't step up when it matters most, to being a bad quarterback again. What are the main reasons for his downfall? Well, I think it just comes down to 2 reasons. I think injuries certainly robbed Carson Wentz's physical talents away. It eroded over time. And another reason, I think this is the main reason, to be honest, is confidence. Mental confidence. Carson Wentz doesn't have the it factor. And Carson Wentz was not a strong player mentally. That's why he couldn't withstand the Philadelphia Eagles drafting Jalen Hurts. He couldn't step up his game and try to play good football. Instead, Carson Wentz melted apart. That's why he also lost his starting job on the Washington Commanders as well. That's also why he lost in Week 18 for the Indianapolis Colts against the 2-14 Jacksonville Jaguars that year. They were basically the worst team in football. Carson Wentz does not have the it factor. He doesn't have the mental fortitude to survive being a long-time NFL starter. That's why he's going to be playing on his 4th team in 4 different years. So that is why Carson Wentz's NFL career is essentially over as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @DustinTran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @DustinTran and @Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @DustinTran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.